Get ready to reclaim your life, discover inspiring stories, practical tools, and the path to true happiness. This is Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Let's begin the journey. Before we start the next conversation, I want to invite you to check out my amazing book, The Gift Inside, a powerful guide for healing your body, mind, and soul. Reclaim your strengths and awaken your true potential. Whether you are navigating heartbreak or simply seeking deeper fulfillment, this book offers the tools to turn your struggles into triumphs. It is time to unlock the gift within you. Available now on Amazon, or you can check it out on my website www.irinashehovsov.com. Hello and welcome to Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Today we have a special guest, Anthony Damaschino. He is the author of The Empty Nest Blueprint and a new book, The Empty Nest Blueprint for Single Parents. His obsession with what he calls the most underrated phase in parents' life led him to create a blueprint for all future and current empty nesters to follow. He combines current research, practical advice, and personal experience to help others not just survive but thrive in their empty nest journey. Welcome, Anthony. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Irene. I'm very excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for the last 3 months. So here we are.
Awesome. So please share with us, who is Anthony in your own words?
Yeah, Anthony is a father of 3. He is I call myself a recovering HR executive because I kind of got burnt out in the HR arena. I wouldn't say I'm retired, but I've became an author a few years ago. So I guess that's my new banner. And I'm married. And I think, am I an expert on empty nesting? I am an expert on empty nesting. I'm going to call myself that. But the funny thing is, I am also very, as you are, very adept at self-help and personal development. So today I probably won't be talking about empty nesting, so to speak, but I do want to talk about self-help and personal development and how that can move one forward in life. And the end result is I liked that genre. I learned so much from that. I ended up writing 2 self-help books, right? So far. So yeah, that's how much it's impacted my life. And that's how important I think professional development and looking for answers from other people who have those answers is the way to go.
Totally. When did you start your personal development journey? What happened?
Yeah, I think as a teen, you are you have ambitions and you have thoughts of things you were going to do. And, I thought I was going to be a stand-up comedian or I was going to be a politician. I had no idea. And then maybe you go to school and you graduate from school. And then in my 20s was kind of my first, first step into personal development, first step into kind of thinking about my life as an adult, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, it started with goal setting. So early in my 20s, the first thing I did, I wasn't reading self-help books. I wasn't interested in emotional intelligence or any of those things. It was all about goal setting. So, get out of college, don't have any debt, get a job. And then the goals, I would do annual goals. So the annual goals would be, what do I want to do with my financial situation? What do I want to do with my professional situation, my career, my job? And then what do I want to accomplish in my personal life? So those were the 3 buckets in my 20s that every year I would write kind of a refresh, what I want to do that year or what I hope to achieve that year. Mm-hmm. And then I would also at that time do a 3 to 5 year planning, which would be more something like I'd like to take a trip to Europe. I'd have to save up for that, or I'd love to buy a car, right? So that is a multi-year savings type of thing for me at that age. And then the final one was the life goals. What do I want to do later in life? So do I start hitting that 401k? Do I start planning for retirement in my 20s or saving for a home or things that I know I'm going to want later on in life, but they're still way out in the future, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I think my first step in my to answer your question, in the professional development or in my personal journey, was really goal setting through my 20s. And it worked. I mean, it really helped me ground myself for what I wanted to do and what I was looking forward to, and keep reminding me of what's important to me.
Did somebody tell you that you gotta set goals? Somebody inspire you to that? Like, you're very responsible. Like at 20, you decided I'm gonna go set goals. Like, awesome.
Yeah, I think it was, to some degree, it was a more personal thing. I think for many things in my life, I tend to do better when I have a goal, right? So writing a book, running a marathon, taking my son to Everest when he turned 16, right? So I throw out big, lofty goals in hopes that I can go after those and achieve those. If I don't have a goal, I'm not going to lose weight. I'm not going to save money. I'm not going to get that new car. I know myself well enough to know I'll spin and talk about it, but I won't do it unless there's a goal, right? And so I have to tie my desired outcomes to a goal, or I find that those outcomes just don't happen.
Very well said. You're right. Otherwise, they're just gonna be dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And then what happened?
Yeah, so, I think things changed in my late 20s. I got married. When I hit 30, I had my first child of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then goals were good, but what I found is in my 20s, I was asking people I worked with for advice. I was going to friends and family for advice. And that's good, but are they experts? Do they really know? Should they be giving advice? Do your friends really know how to save for a future or better yourself or whatever? So the first thing I did in my early 30s is I went back to school. And I got my master's in HR and organizational development. And that, being an adult learner, changed my life. I realized that I squandered a lot of my learning in high school and junior high, and I was disruptive in class and probably a pain in the ass to teachers. And did I read the books that were assigned to me in English? Probably not. Did I kind of get by in certain situations? Yes. And the same is probably true for college to some degree. But as an adult, when you go back and you learn something in your late 20s and early 30s, there's so much more richness and applicability to what you learn. So if someone teaches you finances when you're 16, you don't really know what finances are. There's no practical experience, or gratitude or happiness or life goals. But late 20s, early 30s, being an adult learner, it was a phenomenal experience for me. Everything I learned, there was context to it. One funny thing I did is I went back and I reread all the books that I was given in high school English. So all the books I kind of blew off in high school, I went back and reread them all. The Red Pony, Catcher in the Rye, A Separate Peace, Shakespeare. I went back and read all those books, and it was hilarious because as an adult, those books were amazing. As a high schooler, I was more concerned about the dance on Friday or working, and saving money for a new turntable than I was the books. So as an adult in my 30s, I went back to school. I kind of reestablished learning. And then, to be quite honest, what was probably most important to me in my 30s was finances. Because you want to save for a house, and now you have a child, and you and your spouse are working, and so there are all of that American dream. How do you go after that? So that was really my first toe dipping, I guess, into self-help books or personal development from that standpoint. And the first book I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Kiyosaki, right? And about he goes through an analysis of what a rich dad did and what his poor dad did, and it really kind of frames how to set yourself up for financial success in the future. One thing is investing in real estate and things like that, and diversifying. Not the importance of a brand new car, but the importance of car as transportation, and take that extra money and do something with it. If you don't mind, the second book, so I know I'm talking a lot, but the second book I hit on was called The Millionaire Next Door. And that was probably the most impactful book that I have read, or I read in my 30s, because it was about frugality. It was about, you don't need the flashy car, the $1,000 suit, the $500 shoes to get ahead in life. The whole premise is, spend money where it's important and be as frugal as possible, save, et cetera, et cetera. So that, probably more than any other book, set me on a course to become debt-free as soon as I can in every possible way. Use my credit card less, my debit card. Don't have a car payment. Buy a home, pay off a home, save for college, save for retirement. The only reason why I was able to retire at 50 years old is because basically frugality and saving. I mean, a little luck along the way. Yes, I did well, but really that first step in financial personal development really set me up for my future, right? And I kind of lived by those tenets. I have a lot of friends, they have flashy cars, they have beautiful homes, they have beautiful diamond rings on their wives' fingers, but is that really what's important? I mean, we both know that's not important, right? What's important is time, and spending time doing the things you love with the people you love. And you're only going to do that if you can put yourself in a financial situation to do that. Whether I have a Tesla or an electric Ford Focus, and I have an electric Ford Focus, by the way, that doesn't really matter. It means nothing. Although Tesla is a very nice car.
Yes, you're right.
So that was really my 30s, if you will. It was first stepping into personal development, but it was very financially focused, because at that time, 3 kids in my mid 30s, one has to be financially focused, right? So
that's right, and I love that. We cannot, we come here in this world by ourselves, and we live by ourselves, and all of the earthly possessions we have acquired, we cannot take with us. And like flashy cars and all these material things. I think life is more about experiences and memories that we can make while we are alive, as opposed to having this shiny thing or that.
Yeah, exactly. And and so, I mean, I'm proud of the work I did in my 30s being financial focused, but that was not it. When I turned into my 40s, I realized that wasn't the most important thing. It was an important thing at the time, and it's an important thing for people, but that's not the most important thing.
So right? What did you learn in your 40s?
Well, 40s became, I call it, my personal self-help explosion, if you will. So I moved not away from, but I pivoted from financial self-help books into more of self-help, for example, like Tony Robbins and like Jim Rohn. And so we'll talk about maybe 3 categories. One would be career. So I looked into more career things, which is a financial goal, but also how can I move ahead in my career? How can I be a better leader, a better manager, a better communicator? How can I be more productive at work? And those things, doing self-help in those areas, helped me get promoted in my 40s and reach the level I want. I wanted to be a VP, and I wanted to be an executive in a company. And so I was able to hit that in my 40s because I believe I focused on those professional areas. But again, that's really more success and money. The second part of the explosion at 40 was really the personal explosion, which was spirituality, mindfulness, relationships, gratitude, parenting, self-love, right? All of those other areas of personal development. And that, there's a lot of books out there. I can name a few that were fantastic, but those things to me were the most important things at that stage in my life. Being, financially secure is one thing, but a well-rounded individual who wants to be a better parent, wants to be a better partner, wants to be a better friend, wants to be a better son, brother, sister. Those things became more important to me in my 40s. You've done an episode on gratitude. You've done an episode on learning. All of those things that you've covered in your on your podcast. That was kind of the renaissance I personally had, right, in my 30s or in my 40s.
Nice. What were some of the books that kind of inspired you in the?
Okay, you ready? You ready for this one? Some of the books. First book, The 5 Major Pieces of Life's Puzzle, and this is by Jim Rohn. And one of his tenets is, if you wish to be wealthy, study wealth. If you wish to be happy, study happiness. So it's exactly kind of what I've talked about. I was studying wealth in my 30s, but I wasn't studying happiness or gratitude or mindfulness until my 40s. So Jim Rohn's book, he covers all the components of success, and not success from a financial standpoint, but success from a life standpoint. It's a very thin book. You could read it in, 2 hours or 20 minutes a day. You'll knock it out in a week or two. But he has a philosophy on life, an attitude. He talks about activity, results, and a lifestyle. And he talks more about what's important as being a human being on the planet, and what's important with relationships, and what's important in life than he really does about success and money and things like that. So for me, that is the best self-help book I've ever read, and I would recommend it to anyone. It's applicable to everyone. And it's pretty cheap. It's not an expensive book. Okay, so that's book number 1. Book number 2 that changed my life is The Miracle Morning with Hal Elrod, right? And the funny thing about The Miracle Morning with Hal Elrod, and we've talked about this, Irene, in the past, right? So the premise for The Miracle Morning and other books like it are: get up early in the morning, meditate, exercise, gratitude, journal, read, right? So do these 5 things. If you wake up at 5 a.m. and you spend 10 to 15 minutes on each of those things, by the time 6 a.m. rolls around, you have knocked it out of the park. You are way ahead of the game. And so you go to work and you've already meditated. You've already learned something through reading. You already figured out what you're grateful for. You've meditated and grounded yourself, and you've journaled. And so it really sets you up for the rest of the day with this huge push of an accomplishment, right? And there's another book, Make Your Bed. The first thing you should do when you wake up is make your bed, right? Which is it's accomplishing something before you go on with the rest of your day. Now, the Miracle Morning practice is great, but there are times in our lives when we're willing to wake up at 5 a.m. and practice this, and there are times in our lives when we're not. So a harder practice to do for the rest of your life, but the concepts in it are great. I will say a quick story is the last part of the book had a challenge, and it said, send an email to 25 people and ask them what your strengths are and what your areas of improvement are. So I took this to heart, and I sent 40 friends and family members, so people I knew were close with in my friends and family circle. I sent an email out to 40 of them. I asked them what my 3 greatest strengths were. And then when they sent me an email back, I sent another email out asking, can you give me 3 areas of improvement? With 40 friends and family. But I decided to double down. So I did it with 40 colleagues at work as well. People who I worked with and people who I've worked with in the past. What was funny is people were very quick to respond to, hey, you know, you're really nice and you're kind of funny and I love your hair and whatever else they're going to say. But they were not as reticent as you can imagine to give me 3 pieces of feedback. So I had to really carefully word what I wanted it, why I wanted it. This is part of my developmental journey. I went back 2 or 3 times with some people to get that out of them. But it was a phenomenal way to understand what my strengths are. And I have a list of 50 people, or excuse me, 80 people, what my strengths are. I know what my strengths are now. And then the tougher cup of tea was the 80 areas of improvement that I needed. And there's nothing more real than getting feedback from 80 people who are probably the most important people in your life about what you can improve on, what your issues are. So I'll pause there, but that was probably my biggest developmental jump or leap of faith, or that probably changed my life, in my life today.
I love it. I think it's incredible, being open to do that kind of experiment. Were you surprised by the answers you received and your strengths and your areas of improvement?
Yeah, the strengths were amazing, right? It was such like an ego boost, but just foundational, right? Sense of humor and the ability to connect people together and other people. A lot of those things that explained why I was in HR, why I'm the person I am, etc. So the strengths, I was like, wow, this is fantastic. Areas of improvement, interrupting people, sometimes sometimes getting emotionally charged in a non-emotionally charged situation, right? So having a discussion about politics, but not being able to be calm about it, being a little charged about it, right? Quick to answer and help instead of listen and understand, right? So many good pieces of feedback that were spot on. None of them were wrong, right? I mean, they were all spot on. And it was a lot to digest. So I took the 80, I boiled it down to about 40, and there was some repetition throughout. And then I picked some big themes, some things I didn't want to do moving forward, things I wanted to self-correct. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways, after I read Hal's book, one of the ways to change those things is to look for answers elsewhere, right? Being, Carol Dweck's book, Mindfulness, right? Mindset. Her book on mindset is the name of it. She also wrote a book blurb for my book. But mindset, so having a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset is her concept, right? And a fixed mindset is, it'll always be this way, or that's how it is, or, this Democratic Party or this Republican Party is this way. That's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is being able to reflect, look back, can you see things in a different light? Can you see advantages and see things through other people's eyes, etc. So that was a great book that kind of helped me shift some of my thinking, some of how I viewed the world, if you will. There was, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, The Teenage Brain, Buddhism, books on gratitude. I mean, there were a lot of books about just understanding oneself, right? Which is really what that whole 80-person endeavor was all about. I want to understand myself, and then I want to be better. I want to be a better person. Who doesn't want to be a better person? But it's hard work. It's hard work, and I am not perfect, and I fail again and again, right? I mean, we all do because we're human. But the goal is to to improve and to get better and to be better. And there are moments and times when it all works, and then you feel like you handle the situation really well. Where maybe in the past you wouldn't have handled that situation well because you didn't go to the experts who know how to handle it, right?
That's right. That's right. And we are continuously learning and evolving. We're never done.
Exactly. So what is your biggest, I mean, if you had to pick a book, a personal development book that kind of resonated with you?
I like Steve Olson's The Slight Edge, and it's all about you doing 1% better today versus that you did yesterday, and then a year later you can find yourself 365 degrees better than when you started.
Yeah.
I have this idea on how to create kind of a schedule, if you will, how you like do stuff that you love doing for 1 hour every day. Let's say I love singing, so do 1 hour of that every day, and painting and baking and coaching, and then workout. And imagine a year later you're gonna be maybe an expert because you completed your 10,000 hours in those specific disciplines. But it's not like in a big chunk. It's because you're doing repetition on a daily basis. You keep your mind active. You feel more alive because when you do the things that you love doing, you feel more alive.
Yeah.
And
And
maybe
it's funny because you're explaining a journey, right? That 1 degree journey is, you know, whether it's over the course of a year or 10 years, or in my case, 3 decades. It took me 30 years to kind of get there. But I mean, I think the work, putting in the work, and it doesn't have to be, it can be fun and it can be exciting and it can be eye-opening. It doesn't have to be work, but putting in that work, that 1 degree, the read, the book, you know, yeah, it can transform your life, right? It's funny that, you know, a self-help book that, you know, $1.99 on a Kindle, or, you know, $15, or check it out of the library, can change your life, right? And in my case, there are a series of books that have changed my life. And you know, and that's why I wrote 2. But you know, to hopefully help other people change their lives when they're going through their empty nest stage.
Yeah.
But you know, we have a retirement to look forward to. We're going to be grandparents. We're parents. We're in relationships. We all have financial difficulties and troubles. There's books out there that people smarter than us have written, and there's a lot of great content out there, and there's a lot of great podcasts out there to help people. And you know, embracing that mindset that there's stuff out there to help me become a better person. And why wouldn't you want to be one? It's, you know, it's an incredible gift.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes we wait for some kind of event to occur to start asking ourselves a question or start dipping our toes into personal development. Because if your life, let's say, even keel, kind of, you married, you everything kind of works out, looks good on the outside, and nothing happens, you just go, you do your routine, you know, like horses with blinders on, they go because they don't notice we have a route, we complete the route. You're never gonna venture. Just think about it, like when you have that route, would you ever take a different way, let's say, to get home? You probably wouldn't, because you were always in one direction. Then when something happens, depends, like it could happen in different area of life that causes you, okay, what's happening? Why is it not, the picture in my head doesn't match the reality outside?
Yeah.
And then you start asking the questions. But in your case, I love how you started, you know, you are amazing. At 20, you were doing goal setting and pursuing those goals, and on your 30s, you set on your financial hat on and you started learning more about that area of life. And then in your 40s, you dipped into more personal development stuff, and kind of, like you said, as a wholesome person, you were able to do that. So throughout your life, you were always looking, you were always open to learn, to go and discover new things that pull you forward. So what happened in your 50s?
Yeah, I think and just to touch on that before I go to the 50s, right? So I love what you said about doing something that you love every day, right? I mean, I think, like, if you could go back and talk to, you know, Irina at 23 years old, and I could go back and talk to Anthony at 23 years old, I would tell Anthony, do the goal setting, find answers through education and other people, through self-help books and the like, and don't make it just about money and career. Make it about life, right? Make it about being a good corporate citizen, or a good citizen of the US, or a happy person, or whatever those things are. I would tell younger Anthony to do that. And it's hard to do that when you're in your 20s and it's about ambition, and then you're in your 30s and it's about family. But I would go back, but I would probably steal from your book and tell 23-year-old Anthony to do something they love every day, or do something for someone else every day, right? Like, just those things that you could do and tweak, and it's taken us a lifetime to learn that. But hopefully with our children, we can instill some of those things so that they don't have to wait 3 decades to find the answer, like us, I guess. So 50s for me, I continue on the self-help journey, right? I to some degree, a lot of it, and as an author, I shouldn't say this, but podcasts have become a way to do personal development and self-help, where you don't have to sit down and buy and read the book. Now, I'm all for buying and reading books, of course, especially mine. But when you're exercising, when you're on that walk, when you're on that drive, whatever you are, when you can just turn on that podcast and kind of get a nice update and a refresh. And so I think for me, I'm probably doing more personal development and learning more through earpods, than I am through the written word. I balance the two. But the access now that people have to develop in a car, or to develop while they're walking, or to develop while they're gardening, or on a lunch break at work, it's amazing how quickly this should happen. So in my 50s, I'm continuing to kind of learn and develop. I'm obviously focusing on I'll call it career as a writer in a lot of ways, but I'm now thinking about maybe the 4th chapter of my life coming up. I haven't, not there yet, but I'm thinking about what that's going to be like. I'm thinking about how healthy I want to be when that comes, what I can do to improve my health, what I can do to maintain my mental sharpness, and what I want to do, those things I want to achieve and do later in life. And you said it perfectly. You're driving the same way home. You get into that routine, right? And so, I don't know. I heard a thing on a show the other day, and they said the average person dies 6 years after retirement or something like that. It sounded horrible. But the problem is everyone is racing for retirement, and they believe, well, once I'm retired, I'll go to Ireland. Once I'm retired, I'll buy the nice car. Once I'm retired, I'll blah, 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 lose 50 pounds or whatever they want to do. But we both know that that's not the answer, right? You have to do it along the way. You have to, if you want to give your children gifts, give your children experiences with you. If you want to spend your time in a meaningful way, spend it with people you care about and like and have fun with, right? Those are, my philosophy has just changed to just really embracing the friendships and my family and helping people. That my 50s is all about that. And I hope that continues into my 60s. I'm a ways away, but it becomes less about my own selfish needs and more about who I want to spend the rest of my life with, and how I want to extend my life so I can have those opportunities. Does that make sense?
Yes, I love that. It's beautiful. And you're so right. Oftentimes we wait for retirement to finally do the thing we want to do, but what we don't realize, we may be too burned out from all of the career.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to check out when we retire. So doing the things you love, I think, is so important, because it's your soul's calling. It's your innate gift that you have with the world, and sharing it and doing it and pursuing it. In the end of the day, you didn't come here to suffer. You didn't come here to just work to live, as opposed to being alive, doing things passionately, creatively about yourself. And if you have a dream, a desire, a goal, to go out after that dream. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't make the cemetery the richest place on earth.
Irina, so for me, obviously, it started with goals. And then at one point I moved to a vision board also in my 40s. Do you have a vision board?
I have.
Do you use that?
Yes.
And do you update it? See, I haven't updated mine, but do you go to it and change it every year and kind of update it? And I want to do this and this.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And I think, if you're not a big goal setter and you don't want to write down, I'm going to save $5,000 this year in my 401k or 529 account or whatever, I think a vision board is a nice kind of visual thing to have. And, some people learn, audibly, and others by reading. And I think through a vision board, which I made in my 40s, that has really helped. And I probably did my first vision board I was 41 years old. I had write a book on that vision board. I had write 2 books on that vision board, 1 book, and then I had 2 books over here. And, it took 12 years for me to accomplish that goal, right? To get to an age and time when I could write it. So I guess my message there is, don't beat yourself up, people, if you have a vision board or you have a goal and you don't achieve it that year or those next 3 years. The important thing is to keep it out there, know what you want in the future, and move forward towards it. Vision board is a long-term board in how I use it. Other people may use it, update it monthly. I have no idea. What's the coolest thing on your vision board?
Right now, I don't know if it's the coolest, but traveling to Turkey and seeing hot air balloons in Cappadocia, Turkey. Doing that. Another one is becoming New York Times bestselling author.
There you go.
And doing a TEDx talk.
I took that off mine.
But I also used, I know how Tony Robbins has the power hour in the first hour of the day. So what I used to do, I used to walk and recite how I wanted my life to be. And on those walks is where I dreamed of becoming an author. And that dream took 6 years to come to life.
Yeah.
Between me thinking about it and becoming an author in 22. So.
And it's interesting because we talk about time a lot, right? What we would do if we had more time. And for years, I lied to myself about time, right? For years, it was, if I had more time, I would go to the gym and work out. If I had more time, I would write the book. If I had more time, I would blah, 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 right? And yes, we are all busy people, but like the Miracle Morning, or when your power hour, carving out time for yourself, we all can carve out time for ourselves. We all can. And then with that time, how we use that time, I would say for personal development or for self-help or for, getting your mind in the right place. So my point is, we kind of lie to ourselves growing up that we don't have enough time to do things, but it's really about driving towards an end result. It's really about that vision board, making the time, getting those things done. Right? I could have gotten the book done in my 40s, although contextually I wouldn't have been ready. But it's in the 50s, and now I really appreciate time more, and I realize that time's an excuse in many ways. We can all find the time for the things that are important. Is kind of what I'm saying. So my vision board, there was the books. There's health. I have more categories like health, and then I have a little financial bucket with a number on it. And then I have a thing about travel, a little airplane. And then I have some sayings on it, right? Some kind of motivational sayings on mine. And one that I love is This is from Jerry Rice, and I've never been a big 49er fan or a Jerry Rice fan, but he said, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't." And what I love about that, Jerry Rice, what he meant by that is he worked out, he would stay after practice and focus on nutrition, focus on health, focus on his physical well-being. And he was able to play into his 40s when people in their 20s were getting injured and he's one of the greatest of all times. So, today I'll do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't. When I think about that, I think about mental fitness, I think about health. I think about when I don't want to go to the gym, you go to the gym, right? You do those things today, knowing that not everybody else will do it, but later in life, when you fall down and break your hip, it won't stop you from skiing the next year at 70 years old, right? Or maybe you won't fall down because you've focused on that, right? Anyway, I just find, so those kind of motivational quotes scattered throughout my vision board kind of help me reset myself, right? When I look at it.
Totally, and it's important what you feed your mind. And when you have that visual in front of you, even if you have a bad day, you constantly can sweep yourself out and remind yourself why you do what you do, and you have the visual to remind you, to get you much closer to your goal, to your dream, to your vision.
Exactly. And you've talked a lot about gratitude, right? So when you've had that bad day, stop, pause, think about what you're grateful for, right? I mean, you have children that I'm sure you love with all your heart, and you're grateful every day that they're in your life, right? Same, right? It's just such an easy go-to, make you smile and be happy, right? It's just,
yeah,
it's the easiest gratitude thing to have.
Or the fact that you got out of bed in the morning, you opened your eyes.
Yeah.
The first breath of air.
Yeah.
Or you made the first step. Because oftentimes we take things for granted, things that are already present in our life, that's supposed to happen on autopilot. We only notice when they are gone. So appreciating them.
Yeah, and appreciating the nature and the environment, and you're right that we're alive and that we have time, right? And all of those things. There's so many things, right? I mean, you couldn't finish a gratitude list if you tried to write everything you should be grateful for, because there's a gazillion things, including, this laptop computer and this microphone and paper and whatever, right? I mean, you could be grateful for it all. There's no matter how bad things are, and there are people in prison cells today in the small little boxes that are sent there for the rest of their lives for committing a crime. But those people can wake up every day and be grateful that they can read, they can learn, they have food, they have their mental faculties. I mean, even a prisoner trapped in a box has many things they could be grateful for, right? And, and for the rest of us that aren't trapped in a box, we have even more. So, I think gratitude's amazing. It's a key to happiness.
Yes, one of many. What do you want to create next?
I don't know. I want to read your book next. That's on my list of things to do next. Your New York Times best-selling book, by the way, because you might as well knock that one out. For me, I'm kind of figuring out right now what's next, right? What do I want to create next? I think continue to help people with obviously the books, and that's going to be book marketing and getting it out there. And the crazy thing is you can write a book, but unless people read it, you're not helping people. And if your goal is to help people, you gotta kind of market the hell out of it to get it into people's hands so that they can go through their empty nest life better, right? But that's, at some point, I can only do that so much. And I don't want to spend the next 20 years pushing 1, 2, 3 books or whatever. So there will be a next thing. I'm not sure what that thing is. It won't be the empty nest blueprint for bald-headed men. It'll probably be something completely different, right? It could be a fiction book. It could be another nonfiction book. It may not even be writing. It could be volunteering or doing something like that. But for now, I, like you, it's about helping other people, finishing your book, getting that out there, and then again, your hopes with that, yes, to be a New York Times bestselling author, but to really, in order to do that, that means you've helped thousands of people on your way to get on that list, right? And God, what could be more rewarding than helping 1,000 people? 10,000. So why not make that the goal? And then 100,000. So why not make that the goal? I mean, if you and I help 100,000 people, that's amazing. And so there's something for our vision board. Instead of give me the house on the beach, it just might be help. Maybe I start with help 5,000 people, help 10,000 people, right? And the way I can do that now is through something like this or books or whatever. But I think it's a good goal for both of us now that I'm thinking about it. That'll be our shared goal.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Always fun talking to you. And thank you for sharing your story and your lessons that you learned through your 30s, 40s, and now in 50s.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Don't remind me.
Any final words?
I guess two. I mean, my first is thank you, right, very much for this opportunity. And it's nice to not pitch the book all the time and just talk about what's important, right? And what's important. So I think the first thing is thank you. The second thing is just for anyone watching, there are answers out there. There's one of the things that we have in the United States that a lot of other countries don't have is a free access to a public library. So everybody in the United States can walk into a public library and fill out and get a card and then check out a book and learn something, right? And that's not the case everywhere else in the world. So you have access to books, you have access to knowledge, hopefully you have access to podcasts, which are most all free. So I just think everyone should take that opportunity and try and find the things that interest them and areas they want to get better. And other people have the answers to help you get through those things. So that would be my parting words of wisdom today.
Thank you. I think you make a very good point because oftentimes we spend a lot of time on the phones. But unfortunate thing with the phones, your imagination doesn't get developed because you're already watching somebody else's idea of what something should be like. When you read a book, you get to create your own picture in your head and you get to imagine the characters and the storyline, and you can gain different kind of insights when you read versus when you just watch.
Yeah, the average person's attention span, I think they say it's 12 to 8 seconds when you're on your phone, right? It's dropped from 12 to 8. But a book, right? A book is, you're going to sit there for hours and digest and reflect and read, and it's a different way to go a little deeper.
Yeah. If people would like to connect with you, learn more about you, where would they go?
Yeah, AnthonyDamaschino.com. That's a lot of words there, but I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. You can, if you Google the Empty Nest Blueprint, you'll find me. And probably if you just Google Empty Nest, I'll come up somewhere in those rankings. Those people at Google, come on, get me up there. But AnthonyDamaschino.com is my website. And subscribe to my newsletter. I'm also on social media, of course. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and my daughter keeps me up on TikTok and Pinterest, and my gosh. So you can find me. I'm findable. I'm on YouTube, but no podcast. I only want to guest on yours. So that's where I am. So come find me, and I'm always happy to help and respond to any email I get, etc. So
thank you. It was a pleasure to have you. We'll include everything in show notes.
Yeah, thank you.